Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about a rather complex topic, and that it has a lot of nooks and crannies to it. And so, although this is a single lesson inside of Renshu's Japanese lessons for N4, we're going to split it into two separate Discord events. And we're going to talk about half of it, or maybe a little bit more than half of it today. And then in the next video, we will pick up the second half of it. So, as always, please feel free to ask questions if you have them, if you're here with us live. And yeah, I hope you feel like you have a better grasp on the material, once we're done. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, last week, in the previous lesson, we talked about Rashi, and we were using it to talk about, discussing what we think something seems to be. And one of the things that we focused on is Rashi is meant as a literal device in the sense that you are trying to use it to describe something that you think is true. If you think someone is sleeping, you might say netteru rashi. You can't use it in any kind of metaphorical sense to suggest something that might not be true or describe them like something else. In the way that seems, the word seems in English can be used with a lot more flexibility. You can say, he seems to be dead asleep, is a common thing we say. Or it seems like he's dead. And you're not suggesting that the person is dead. You're just saying they're sleeping so heavily that they appear to be dead. And Rashi, you can't use it that way. Yo, however, has a lot more flexibility. In fact, out of the three that we'll talk about altogether, Rashi last time, Yo this time, and then probably So next time, Yo definitely has the most flexibility in what you can use it to describe. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to talk about Yo, and like I said, this will probably be a 2-event lesson, and we'll get to So next time. So first, let's go through the boring but vital construction. Yo is usually translated as seems like or looks like, just like Rashi. It's usually a seems like or looks like, just like Rashi. However, unlike Rashi, and this is what I told you just a second ago, you can use it both to describe something that you think is true, seems to be true, looks like it's true. You can also use it in a more, I'm going to use the word poetic, in a more poetic way to describe what things are like. And we'll see some examples as to what that means. Now, for actually constructing it, you can see the 4 examples we have here. And you can think of it kind of as using the casual forms of all these words. If you're using a verb, and it says casual verb, so it could be anything. If we're talking about eat, it could be any of these. It doesn't matter if it's past or present, progressive, but we're sticking with the casual, the short form of the verbs. Nouns get the no between them to link them on. E-adjectives, you just drop on the front of them, and then na adjectives, you need that na in between. Now, yo itself is actually used in the same way that you would use a na adjective, and you'll see some examples of this. So right now we just talked about what you can put in front of yo, and then yo is often used to attach onto other things. When you attach it onto something else, or conjugate it or put des or deshta on the end of it, you would conjugate it in the same way that you would conjugate a na adjective. Now, this is a lot of not theory, but just structure. And then once we get to some actual examples, you'll start to see what we're talking about. Now, this might not make a lot of sense now, but we often use yo to describe the feelings of others. Now, what does that mean? In Japanese, there's something that we can't do in Japanese compared to what we can do in English. And let me give you a simple example that's not here in the lesson, and that way you have that fixed in your head. Let's first start with some English. Say there's a child in front of you, and they have their head laying down on top of the table, and their arms kind of splayed out, and their eyes are kind of dipping in and out. What could you how could you describe that person? Let's say it's a little boy. You could say he is what? To keep it simple, what's a simple English word you could describe? See a boy laying on the table, eyes kind of opening and closing, barely keeping his eyelids open, head down. What's a very simple English word we might use to describe that? Sleepy. Exactly. Yeah. And that's something we would say. He is sleepy. Or, for example, we just got a new dog, a little Chihuahua, and if the Chihuahua is jumping around, we might say, "Wow, she's happy. She's really happy." And that's a natural thing we can say in English. We cannot say that in Japanese. We can't say it. And this it goes across not just this grammar structure, but several other ones. In that, let's go back to that boy. The boy looks sleepy, but do we know what the boy's feelings are? Do we know that the boy is sleepy? No, we just think he is. We think that based on the information we have, and we're probably right. We probably know that he is sleepy, but unless the boy says, "I am sleepy," in Japanese, you cannot make that assumption. And that, sleepy is not exactly a feeling, but you can kind of think of it as, sleepy or angry or happy or frustrated or nervous. A lot of these things are things that you can make guesses about, but you cannot presume in Japanese. Because of that, yo, again, which means like, is like, or seems to be, this is an excellent way of describing the feelings or situation of other people. When we cannot say 100% what inside of their hearts, inside of their head, what they might be feeling. Now, let's take the structures, verb, noun, adjective structures, and see a few examples. And then after that, we're going to take these examples and actually blend them into some sentences. So we've got a verb on the top, waratteru yo. So if someone seems to be laughing, you could use this, waratteru yo. So waratteru is laughing, of course, and then seems to be, or seems like, or looks like. There's a lot of different ways you could phrase this in English, but probably seem or like are the two words you're going to see most often. Now, if someone seems tired or sleepy, you could say nemui yo. If someone appears to be energetic, you could say genki na yo. And again, this might seem strange in English when you're translating it, because you would usually say, "Oh, they're," genki doesn't just mean energetic. It can also just mean good, like a general state of goodness. So if you see a person or a child or an animal kind of bouncing around and seeming to have a fun time, you'd say they're enjoying themselves. They're good. Maybe they were sick last week and now they're walking around with no sniffles or anything, and you say, "Well, they're good this week." We don't know that. We're just presuming that. So we might say genki na yo. Now, this last one is the interesting one. Umi no yo. This one, we're using it to describe, waratteru yo is describing, for example, a child who we think is laughing. Nemui yo is someone who we think they're sleepy, think they're tired. Genki na yo, umi no yo, we are not saying, "Oh, they seem to be an ocean." That doesn't make any sense. This one gets closer to the like version. of the meaning of yo. The first three would say they seem to be laughing, they seem to be sleepy, they seem to be good or energetic. This last one is closer to like. It's not, I think they're an ocean, but I'm not sure. It's not that. We are saying whatever person or thing or action or description we're trying to put forth, we are comparing it to an ocean. We are saying they are like the ocean, not we think they are the ocean. So with this, you can see how this breaks from Rashi. Remember Rashi, we could probably use Rashi for those top three examples, warateru, nemui, and genki. They seem to be laughing, they seem to be sleepy, they seem to be good. They cannot seem to be an ocean. They might be like an ocean. Rashi cannot work for that last one because Rashi is for a direct, literal description of what's going on. So with umi no yo, we might use that to describe something else that has qualities of an ocean, but it's not an ocean itself. We would not say, umi no yo na umi, an ocean that's like an ocean. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's jump into some actual examples, taking these four chunks that we have. So, first we have children. Kodomo tachi ga waratteru you da. And just as an aside, this is somewhat of an N5 level topic, but it's always good to come back to this because it's a common question that comes up. When we say kodomo tachi, what's happening here? What does that tachi signify? Tiny 2-minute review into tachi. What is tachi doing? Not pluralizing. Nope. Tachi is not a pluralizer because kodomo can refer to 2 or 3 or 10 or 1,000,000. I have 2 kodomo. In my family, kodomo ga 2人 imasu. And 2 is definitely plural, but I used kodomo. Tachi is more accurately referred to as a group marker. Now, groups have to be plural. Groups can't be you can't be a group of one, so the plural aspect of it comes in from that. But you use it to refer to a group when you're describing the group as a whole, not the individual action or description of everyone inside of it, but acting as a whole. And with laughing, that makes a lot of sense because you don't really laugh by yourself. I mean, I know you can, but think about it. You tend to laugh with other people. If there's a group of children laughing, you're not saying, oh, they all happen to be laughing at the same time. No, you would typically think they're laughing together. It's a group activity, therefore we need the group marker. Okay, so let's take this sentence. Kodomo tachi ga waratteru you da. Now, when we say this, I have a question for you. Do you think we can see the children right now? Do you think we can see the children? Are the children in front of us? I like that answer. Yes, with a question. That's a really maybe. The answer is it could be. So let's take the they are in front of us. Why? So I could just say, I could say this. Kodomo tachi ga waratteru. So if I say that, I know they're laughing, which means if I'm using this yo, I'm saying it seems like they're laughing. It appears that they're laughing. So what could I actually be describing here? If I don't know for sure that they're laughing, then what information am I using to use this sentence? Like, when would I actually need to say this? What are some hints? They could be far away. The sounds of the laughs or their faces. Okay, so maybe you can't see them, but you can hear the laughing. That's excellent. But you can't see their faces, and maybe they're laughing. Sometimes people have that, there's that fine line between laughing and crying. Maybe they're crying, maybe they're laughing. I'm not quite sure. You see them from far away, and they've got their mouth and they're kind of swinging their head back and forth. Are they sobbing? Are they screaming? Are they laughing? Who knows? But I think they're laughing. They appear to be laughing. So these are all good ideas. They could be right in front of you, and you're just not sure if they're laughing or not. It might be that they're covering their hands, they're covering their mouths with their hands, or they're doing it quietly, and they're trying to keep you from knowing. Maybe you're the teacher, or they're in another room and you hear something, it's muffled, you think they're laughing, and also maybe you have some information. You knew they went in to play a funny game or to watch a funny movie. And so you have some other information that's hinting at this situation. You're saying, yeah, I think they're laughing. They seem to be laughing. So we use this when we don't have certainty. If we had certainty, we would just say that they're laughing. But we're not quite sure. Now, let's take a look at this one. This sentence is slightly more complex. We'll talk about the structure, but first let's try and pull the meaning out of it. 赤ちゃんは眠いような顔をしています. Now, I'm going to ask you just for today's lesson to ignore the o しています. It's a topic that we'll come back to in more detail later. But I'll tell you very simply, it's often used to describe a state, some kind of state. So this is the state of like a sleepy face. It sounds very unnatural in English, but you see it come up in Japanese. So if you look at it simply, the child's face looks sleepy. You might say that, well, it's more natural, and you might say in English the child looks sleepy, appears to be sleepy. But here we're saying that they have their face. We're focusing on their face, and we think so. Now, we probably can't ask the baby, hey baby, are you sleepy? So we don't know. So we're making a guess. We're probably pretty sure about it, but we think they're tired. We think they're sleepy. Now, you probably have a decent feel for the content in there, but let's look at what's actually going on in terms of the grammar, because this is where it can get kind of complex. First, although the second sentence is green, let's look back at the first one about the laughing children. We think they're laughing. You can, and it's very common to end a sentence with yo, in the same way that you could end a sentence with any other adjective. You could say, I'm going to say kodomotachi, if I can type correctly. You could say something like this. Kodomotachi ga genki da. That's a sentence we've seen before. We're familiar with this construction. We're just saying the children are genki. This is the same thing. We are saying the children are yo. The children are yo. And what is yo? Yo is talking about this seems to be laughing. And so you often see it as a sentence ender. When it does, you end it the same way you would end an adjective in a sentence, a not adjective specifically. You might have a da at the end of it, or deshita, if we're talking about past tense. So just like your not adjectives. Now with the second one, let me rewrite the sentence for you real fast. Let's say I'm looking at some children. I'm saying, man, those children are really energetic. Genki na tomodachi, not tomodachi, genki na kodomotachi desu ne. We're taking the adjective and putting it in front of a noun. Again, a common structure that we've gone over many times. However, we're going to take that, and it looks like there's a lot going on, but we're taking the adjective yo, putting it in front of face, and so we're describing the face. A face that seems to be sleepy, a face that looks sleepy. So although these sentences seem a lot more complicated, we're actually going back to our basic usages of adjectives. It just happens to be that the adjective yo has a lot of stuff sitting in front of it. Now, we're going to continue on with a couple more sentences, and then we're going to practice, and then we'll be done for today. Like I said, we're keeping this one a bit shorter because if we try and get the second one in, it'll just get too long. We don't want to rush this. Okay, let's take a look at our last two sentences. 病気だったの人が元気なようでよかった. Oh my goodness, there's so much grammar packed in there. There's so much in there. Let's look at it slowly. And, we're hitting N4 and you're going to start to see more complex sentences. And it's important that when you see things like this, you just need to look at it in smaller chunks. So first, what's the subject of the sentence here? Who are we talking about? We're talking about these hito. Is it one person? Probably one, I'm guessing, based on the context. There's one person, and we have a descriptor about them. Byoki datta no. So they were byoki. They are no longer byoki. It was a past tense modifier. So they were sick. Person that was sick. Now let's describe them. We've got the subject. It's a person that was sick. Let's describe them. We've got genki na yo. Now this part is straight up from the beginning of the lesson. We're taking yo. We're putting genki in front of it. And we could just leave the sentence like that. If we wanted to keep it simple, we could say that. Let me copy. There we go. We could just leave it at that, and the sentence would make perfect sense. 病気だったの人が元気なようです. The person that was sick seems to be well. The person that was sick seems to be good. But we're taking that and we are adding a little bit more to it. You're adding the day, which, if you remember, we use day to when. Whoops. When is day used? Sometimes it's te, sometimes it's day. What if anyone can recall how I've described these before? The te or the day form? What is their purpose in Japanese? It doesn't matter if it's a verb or an adjective, it's a singular purpose. Linking connects things. You're both correct, but let's be a bit more specific. Linking what? What do they link? You're all very close, super close. You're all saying 90% of the answer, 99% of the answer. Day, the te form / day form. Usually we call it the te form when we talk about verbs. And then usually we might call it the te day form when talking about adjectives, but the te day is used for linking same things. That means if we're using verbs, when do we use te? We use te if we have two verbs. That's the same thing. It's not a verb and an adjective. It's not a verb and a noun. It's a verb and a verb. We have verb plus verb. We need that glue. We need the te de glue. Te comes in there right in between two verbs. Similarly, with adjectives, we're doing the same thing. So if you are looking at some scenery outside and you're like, it's beautiful and wonderful. Kirei de suteki desu. Those are both adjectives. And we're using the day form or te form to link them together. Or if you were talking about your favorite character that you like, you might say, kawaikite suki desu. You know, he or she or it is cute and I like them. So, if you're dealing with the same type of word, we can use the te form to link them together. It acts as glue. And here we're using de to do exactly that. We're linking yo, which is an adjective, with yokatta. You know, the past tense of good, e. And we're using we're using the de to link those two. So the person that was, I realized that you can all see that I highlighted that text. It's been highlighted for 5 minutes. Sorry about that. And the person that was sick seems to be good, and I'm happy. I'm good. That's great. You know, a positive response to that. That's all that's going on here. It seems like a lot, but we have the subject, person that used to be sick. They seem to be well. Good. Great. Now, let's jump to the last one, and this is our odd one out. This is the one that takes the other form of yo, the one that's closer to like than seems. So take a look at this one. あの湖が海のように見えます。あの湖が海のように見えます。So, we've got the strangely named Mizumi. Like, why? How did they come up with that reading? I have no idea. Are there oceans that don't contain water in them? Who knows? But they say that lake is like or looks like an ocean. And as Renshu points out, you know, why? You know, it's probably, I'm guessing, because it's big. Like, this is so big, it's like an ocean. Now, this is also dropping on this ni mieru, which maybe you haven't seen too much yet. It's something you can say it looks like, and ni mieru ties this directly into the sight, the sense of sight. You could also say this. You could also make it a bit shorter and say this. あの湖が海のようです。That lake is like an ocean. Now, let me give you a few more examples of this before we try practicing it. And I hear someone that's coming on the mic. You might want to mute your mic, please. Thank you. So let's talk about someone running. Let's talk about a fast runner. What if we want to describe someone that's a fast runner? How might we describe them? Think about it in English. What might we compare them to if we want to emphasize how fast someone was? What are some things or animals or I don't know, something that we might use? A jackrabbit. I actually don't know what jackrabbit is in English or Japanese, so I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that one. Cheetah, horse, Sonic. My kids have been watching Sonic, so that's kind of fresh in my mind. So these are great. Lightning. Okay. I definitely see where you're coming with lightning, but I haven't seen that link being made as in it's fast as lightning. Although now that I say it in English, we say that all the time. Kaminari no yo ni. I'm not sure if we would say that in Japanese, but it was a good try. But I'm gonna take Sonic because they did me the favor of writing it in katakana already. So if we wanted to talk about someone, let's talk about some woman. We'll say 彼女は Sonic no yo ni. So I haven't finished the sentence yet. Remember, ni is an adverbial form. And when do we use adverbs in any language? We use them before other adjectives or before verbs. So what's the verb? I already mentioned it earlier, but let's see if you remember. What's the verb we put after this? 彼女はソニックのように走る. Yeah. Now there's one more word we could use that's not a verb. Can you think of an adjective we could put in there and still make this sentence work? Any ideas? Hayai. And you got the correct kanji. Thank you. When you are typing quickly into the keyboard, you never know which of the two kanji is going to come up, the early hayai or the fast hayai. So that's the fast one. So right, you could say she is fast like Sonic. You could say she runs like Sonic. You could even say, so we've got, let me go and just type them all out so we have them for everyone to see. So you could say she runs like Sonic. You could say she's fast. You could even say this for the double emphasis. 彼女はソニックのように速く走ります. Now, we are not implying that she's Sonic. Now, she might be. Who knows? It might be Sonic dressed up as a woman. But we're not implying that she is Sonic. We're using Yoni to describe here as a simile, describe her speed using something else. We describe the lake using the ocean. And so you'll see yo used extensively in this way. Now, rashi can't do that. Rashi is used only for describing things as they are, using, realistic descriptions. So, the one that we're going to learn next time, same thing. We cannot use so to describe something and then use it in this descriptive sense. To say this is spicy like, a jalapeno, and use so. Yo is the only one that gives us the freedom to expand upon that. So, to end things today, I'd like to practice a little bit. I'm kind of shocked that we've had no questions so far. I hope you're not holding them back. If you have any, please ask. But I'd like everyone to try, because this one I feel is the more fun to practice. We're going to try this last one, using yo to describe something, to give a description using some other thing. And it doesn't have to be true. You can just make something up. I don't care. But I'd like you to describe something you do, or someone. It could be someone else. It could be like your father, your friend, anyone, your boss, your coworker. Describe something they do and use noyoni to describe how they do it, to add some flavor to it. You say, for example, I'll give you some hints. You might talk about how someone eats. Like someone eats, they eat so much. They eat like a da-da-da. Or someone works. How do they work? They work like a machine. Or my friend is an artist. They draw, but they draw like a pro. They sing like Beyonce. There's so many different ways we can describe a person using other things to help illustrate that description. So generally, as I see a few people typing already, I'll give you kind of a basic structure. The subject, ga, and then what's the thing you're comparing them to? What are you saying that they're like? And then how are they like that? Are they like that because they share an adjective, a descriptor? Are they like that because they do the same verb? And it doesn't have to just be, the verb. You can add things to a verb in the same way that we said hayaku hashirimasu, or takusan tabemasu, or jouzu ni kakimasu. So this is a bit difficult, but I encourage those of you that want to give it a try to put all this together. Make some mistakes, please do, but see if you can get this put together. I'll go ahead and toss the no in front of the yoni because we're probably going to be sticking with nouns here. The first sentence, I'm not quite familiar with that kanji compound, so I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say there. The second one, drop the second no after inu, and then you've got a perfect sentence. Boku no inu wa. I can, especially because we literally just got a dog a week ago, and this is a first for our family, so we're still working through all the things with dog ownership and learning all the ways that dogs can act like humans. But this person's dog, they don't act like a human; they act like a pig. Specifically, they naku, which is to cry. It's not necessarily to cry. We say naku, I mean to cry when we speak about humans, typically. But when we talk about animals, naku usually refers to the voice that they make, like a cat's meow or a dog's woof. It can also refer to the crying, especially when you dogs and cats. We can kind of think of them as crying sometimes. We kind of say, "Oh, they're crying" or "they're yelping." So I see we've got some very creative people here today, which I love. One person said, "One-san ga atarashi Roomba." Is it Roomba or is it Roomba? Who knows? I'm now really want to know what's the katakana for that one. Roomba. Um, I don't know. I don't see it. Oh, it's Roomba. Okay, no dash on the end. There he is. Okay, sorry. I'm back. お姉さんが新しいルンバのように掃除します。So their older sister cleans like a Roomba, which brings several images to mind. I'm not sure which one they were aiming for. Are they close to the ground? They scoot around? Or are they very fine and detailed when they're cleaning? Or perhaps they're cleaning all the time, like it's a continual cleaning? It could be any of those. Someone else is talking about someone sleeping like a rock. What else do we have? My voice is like a cat when I have a cold. I would probably, that's a good question. Not your everyday sentence, but I like it. So I might say something like, I might put the kaze no toki at the beginning, or not the beginning, but towards the front. I put watashi, but you did boku. So boku wa kaze no toki, and then describe it. Koe ga neko no yo, and now ni we only use if we're adding like an adjective or verb after it. So you would probably just end it with yo des or yo da. Someone is throwing shade at their cat. Poor cat. Here's an interesting one. One line above what I was typing. Someone said, 友達がモデルのように綺麗です. And so their friend is not a model, although a person being a model is, obviously possible. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that they couldn't be. It's just something that they aren't at that time. So they're beautiful like a model. Sure. These are all excellent sentences. I appreciate everyone giving it a try and putting these out. Now, we are winding up for today. It's a bit shorter, and we will connect this with the second half of our lesson. You can notice that we're not even halfway through. The lesson next time, we're going to talk about soul, which is actually simpler on its face. It's simpler, but in terms of concept, but the construction is a bit trickier. There's some weird things that happen both before and after soul. And just as a preview, I'm going to say this. This is a very common word or structure you see in Japanese, yosaso. But there's a lot bound inside of that. Anyway, we're going to talk about soul next time, and then we're going to end the lesson by taking rashi, yo, and so and comparing, or rather contrasting them to say, okay, when can we use each of those? And that's the big one. Is you might get these all in your head and say, okay, I've got it. I know how to say looks like or seems like. Now, when can I use one and not the other? And we'll be focusing on that next time. So this video will be available here in the Discord as well as in Renshu's app. Just in case you don't know where it is inside Renshu, let me show you real fast. I'm on the website right now for this video, but the menu, pops out from the app. If you go to resources and then Japanese lessons, when this one is up, it will be down here and you'll see it available right here. We'll have 2 icons this time instead of 1 once we're all done, but it'll appear here and you can check this out anytime you need to. This is also right here, the link you would tap if you want to go through and look at the text itself one more time. But I hope this helped you, and thank you so much, and definitely join us next time so we can finish this lesson up. Thank you.